What's up guys, Chris Sargent with you. So today what I'm going to give you is a bit of a beginner's guide of both shredding and bulking, okay? So not the real scientific stuff, not the real intricacies of it. If you are interested in that sort of stuff, if you are past the beginner stage, then please feel free to comment, send me an email, get in contact, and I'll be happy to help you out with any advice in that sort of stuff as well. But if you are a beginner to bodybuilding, if you are a beginner to lifting, or shredding or bulking, or if you are just looking for a few extra pointers in what you can do, this video should help you out. What I've done is we'll talk about both shredding, bulking, and when I believe you should be doing them. Just a few key pointers that can help you out. So starting with shredding, number one being a caloric deficit. So burning more than what you're putting in. So if you're eating 2,000 calories a day, you need to be burning 2,500, 3,000. Now, how much you need to be burning more? It is rough. 500 a day, being in a deficit of 500 a day is a good starting point, but it depends how fast you want to lose it and how much you can get away with eating and how much you need to fuel your day, I guess, and how busy you can be. Now, in terms of tracking it, it can be tough to know exactly how much. I use just one of these watches. They're not deadly accurate, but they generally are fairly consistent and give me a rough idea. Just ensure that you are eating less than what you're putting in. That's number one. It may seem obvious, but ultimately, it's the only way you're going to weigh in less. You can't be eating more. No matter how clean you're eating, if you are eating more than what you're burning, you won't get the results. You won't lose that weight that you want to. Now, in terms of macronutrients, obviously I follow sort of if it fits your macros, flexible dieting sort of principles. But number one with shredding, you need to hit your protein intake and you need to hit your fats, okay? Fats for well-being, fats for well-being, fats for overall body, your hormones and stuff rely on that. Now, this may sound weird to some of you guys that haven't done it before, but shredding with fats in your body, if you are low in fat storage, then you are less likely to burn fat. It holds on. Your body holds on to those. You need fat to release hormones that actually burn the fat, okay? In simple terms, that's as best I can say it to you. You need that fat. In terms of protein, if you've done all the hard work, if you've built up the muscle, you've bulked and whatnot, you don't want to lose it all in an extended shred. So make sure you're hitting those proteins. What I did through my cut to ensure I was having protein all day was using BCAAs as a supplement first thing in the morning, and then I'd sip on them all day just to keep sure I'm keep hitting those essential amino acids, but also hitting protein. Now, it depends on your weight, what you're going for. If you need help with that, just shoot me a message. But for instance, I was dropping from 97 to about 80. Through that, I stayed around 220 grams of protein, roughly, a bit more, a bit less at times. And making sure I hit those every single day. So track those using MyFitnessPal, great app. As you see, a lot of fitness people using that. That will help you track what proteins you're hitting. Now, another one, this one's, a lot of people believe in different things. I am a believer in training heavy, especially when you're shredding. Now, if you do want to lose the weight and you are in a deficit, you're bound to lose a little bit of strength. Okay, that's going to happen. Now, if you go away from training heavy the whole time, you will end up losing more. And I don't like the idea of shredding for a long period of time, losing all that strength, and then having to start from almost square one when you bulk again and have to build it back up. So trying to build strength if possible, it's pretty hard, but at the very least, try and maintain or keep it close to what you were in your bulk strength. So that way, when you hit your bulk, you're ready to skyrocket even past your plateaus that you had before. Now, shredding, I think for those that are beginners, one thing you need to keep in mind is it is mentally draining, okay? If you really want to go to a low body fat, it can affect so many factors. It affects your mood, it affects your energy throughout the day, it can affect your libido, it can affect many, many things. Your whole day, once you hit a really low body fat, going through it recently, it was a learning curve for me. I have shred before, but not to the levels I had to for a recent photo shoot. That was so draining for me, and it was a learning curve for me. I can't stress enough that you need to be ready. Now, one thing to do to avoid that, you need to have that positive mindset, whether it is setting your goals, writing out reminders. Okay, that's what I like to do. I'd have a whiteboard. I'd write out reminders of the positive things that I have going for me, little goals to tick off each day to give me some more motivation. Just things like that kept me positive throughout. Okay, now a lot of you would have heard of carb cycling. If you haven't, that's fine. But it's quite a complicated process, but in simple terms, basically means whatever your carbs are for the week, okay, so say you're hitting 250 a day, okay, over a whole week, okay, that's 1750, then you've got to hit that total for the week, but you will change it. So you might start with 400 the first day and the second day, then drop it down to 100 for a day or two. Okay, so at the end of the week, you're going to hit the same amount, but you will change on days just to keep your body guessing. It does change things in your metabolism. It makes it hard as long as you're eating clean carbs as well. I can't stress that enough. Just eating sugars the whole way won't really help. But if you do carb cycle, I suggest it. I've only really used it recently when I hit that plateau and I couldn't really get as lean as I wanted to. I suggest it in those last stages if you are comp prepping in the last few weeks, if you're really struggling to get to that goal weight. And also if you're looking to just lose a bit of weight fast, it is very efficient with that sort of thing. Last of all, my last little tip with shredding would be consistent weigh-ins. Okay, keep track. Okay, just as you would with your macros, you need to keep track with your weight. So hit it every day, same time. Don't weigh in at night, don't weigh in the morning the next day. Of course they're going to be way different. I'm sure you know that, but some people do make that mistake. So make sure we're weighing in. I like to do it at 8 o'clock every morning. If I missed an 8 o'clock, if I was out at work or something, then I wouldn't weigh in that morning. I'd just make sure I hit it the next morning. And it was always consistent in that way, as consistent as I could get it. So, now on to bulking. I find this a little bit simpler, but still some key points. So, opposite to shredding, you need to be in a surplus. So your calories need to be in a surplus. If you're burning 3,000 a day, you need to be eating 3.5 to 4. Don't expect to be going up weight and putting on size if you aren't eating enough. So that does mean you need to get that intake of food. That's not much of a problem for most of us, but it is a learning curve. Try and keep it clean. Now, this, to a lot of people that know me, would sound a little bit hypocritical. I tend to go off my diet a little bit at times, and I don't necessarily keep it clean at all times. But there's nothing wrong with treating yourself. Enjoy the bulk. Honestly, guys, if you're going to bulk, I know you've heard dirty and clean bulks. Don't go full dirty and don't just eat terrible foods all the time, okay? That's not going to be good for your body. You're not going to feel well, and it's not going to be good for your growth. But treat yourself, but at the same time, make sure you're keeping it clean as often as you can. Try and eat your whole meal foods, your high fibre foods, chicken breasts, tunas, good proteins, different varieties of proteins, different varieties of foods in general. Make sure your macronutrients are all very different. Once again, hitting your proteins and your fats, very important. The one thing that will change, increasing your carbs, okay? So if you are tracking your food on MyFitnessPal, your protein shouldn't change much, okay? If anyone tells you they are, they're probably not really giving you great advice, okay? They shouldn't change it. I bump mine up a little bit, but they still stay within a range, a weight range, okay? Relative to how big you are. Fats, similar. They go up a bit more. Some people like to actually drop them, but I like to bring mine up just to be a little bit more flexible. I enjoy food, so I'm going to do that. But and last of all, your carbs, they will drastically go up from a shred. Okay, mine have almost doubled. They have doubled. So they need to. That will be the thing you fluctuate up and down depending on what your weigh-ins are. Same thing with the shred though. Keep your weigh-ins consistent. Weigh in every now and then. I don't think you need to do it daily as much because you are probably doing it for a more extended time. But do weigh in and fluctuate your carbs on how much you do want to grow. Now, last thing on the key point on the bulking is training in terms of training style. So I said train strength train heavy in shredding. I'd say the same because I'm inclined to train heavy. I like to do that, and I try and get PBs on everything. But I like a mixture. Okay, when it comes to a bulk, you do want to optimize that time. You want to get growth, but you also want to get that strength. Now, I believe training heavy, that's going to be the best way to put on mass. But at times, if you're trying to do that every day, it's going to lead to injuries. It's going to lead to a lot of things. But you also need to focus on a bit of muscle connection. So within my sessions, some people like to have strength days. Some people like to have hypertrophy days. So they might do legs really heavy, and then later in the week they'll do them with lighter weights, higher reps. I personally sometimes like to start my sessions with a few compound heavy movements and move to more accessory and high rep, hypertrophy sort of movements, just focusing on getting that muscle connection. I just mentioned compound training, so that's sort of a weight, an exercise that hits a big amount of muscles, a big gross muscles. So for instance, if you're doing a squat, deadlift and bench press are probably the most common three, but there are plenty. Okay, I consider leg press a big compound movement, but in terms of like if you are doing a squat, okay, focusing on exercise like that, you're going to hit heaps of muscle groups. If you hit the leg extension, you're just hitting your quads. If you're hitting compound movements regularly, like squats, you're hitting your quads, hamstrings, glutes, lower back needs to be tight and your core needs to be trained as well. But overall, you're targeting more muscle groups, okay? So trying to incorporate as many, if you are looking for growth, which is why we bulk, then you do need to incorporate compound movements. I think that's so critical. Now, last of all, when you should do it. Okay, so we've covered the key points of shredding, the key points of bulking. When should you do it? As a beginner, or maybe not as a beginner, when should you incorporate it? So I believe you always bulk first. Okay, if you're beginning, if you're just starting the gym, bulk. If you're young, bulk. Especially if you're young. Do not start thinking, oh, I'm a little bit chubby. I'm 16. I'm a little bit chubby. I need to lose a bit of weight and then get great abs. Look at it from the long haul. If you really have a passion for this and you want to get results, then bulk first. Yes, you may put on some body fat, but you will put on more size, okay? It is more, some people say when you're in a deficit, when you're shredding, you can't put on muscle size. I disagree with that. I don't believe that at all. There's plenty of proof to say that's not true, but I do agree with it in somewhat that you're not going to put on much, okay? If you're in a deficit, it's very hard to put on size. If you're in a surplus, the gains will come in. So you need to be in a surplus as often as you can. Definitely start with it. Build the size first. There's no point getting lean if you don't have any muscle to show for it, okay? If you can't, if you haven't grown first. So grow, bulk first whilst you're young. When you should shred, now, I think you shred for a reason. So that might be competition. I personally haven't competed. I'm not sure if I want to as of yet. But I recently shred down for an extended period of time, and that was to do a photo shoot and also to challenge myself. But recently for a photo shoot, and I tried to get as lean as I possibly could, and that was really good. It worked out quite well for me. So I had a motivation, I had a reasoning for doing that. A competition, obviously a great reason to do so. Now, don't just do it for no point whatsoever. You're better off being in a surplus and growing, and then in the long term, then you can shred down and see what you've got. So that is one thing. You do want to see your results. I understand that. But if you've only bulked for 3 months, you're probably not going to have huge results. So bulking for a very extended period of time, ranging from 8 months to, if you're young, maybe 3 years. So doing that first, spend more time on the bulk, then shred, and you will get more growth from that. So that'll sum everything up, guys. It was awesome talking to you. I hope this helps, especially those that are beginners, young guys and girls, that are trying to get into the industry, trying to grow, or just trying to shred for some reason if you're coming into a competition or something like that. So I hope I could help, and I'll talk to you soon. Promise you more workout footage next time too.